What if I told you that you don't need a massive breakthrough to change your life? Just 1%. Just a little more effort, a little more discipline, a little more focus every single day. Because success doesn't come from one big moment. It comes from the small decisions you make when no one is watching. Small improvements matter more than most people realize because they are the foundation upon which every great achievement is built. People often wait for the perfect moment, the big opportunity, or a surge of motivation to make a dramatic change. But the truth is, those moments are rare and unreliable. What truly shapes your future are the small, consistent actions you take every single day. Reading a few extra pages, practicing a skill for an extra hour, making a slightly better decision than yesterday. These may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they create a powerful momentum that cannot be ignored. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about doing something every day that moves you forward. When you focus on small improvements, you remove the pressure of perfection. Too many people get stuck because they believe they need to make huge progress immediately. That mindset leads to frustration, burnout, and eventually giving up. But when your goal is simply to be a little better than you were yesterday, the process becomes manageable and even enjoyable. You begin to see growth as a daily practice rather than a distant destination. This shift in thinking allows you to stay consistent because you're no longer overwhelmed by the size of your goals. You're focused on the next step, not the entire staircase. Small improvements also build confidence in a way that big, sudden changes cannot. Every time you follow through on a small commitment, you prove to yourself that you are capable. That sense of self-trust grows stronger with each action you take. You start to believe in your ability to improve, to adapt, and to overcome challenges. Confidence is not something you wait to feel before taking action. It is something you build through repeated effort. And those small wins, stacked day after day, become the evidence you need to keep pushing forward, even when doubt tries to creep in. Another powerful aspect of small improvements is their ability to compound over time. Just like money grows through interest, your efforts grow through consistency. A 1% improvement may seem insignificant today, but when repeated over weeks, months, and years, it leads to extraordinary transformation. The difference between someone who improves slightly every day and someone who stays the same is massive when you look at the long-term results. The person who commits to small growth doesn't just get better. They evolve into a completely different version of themselves. This compounding effect is quiet at first, almost invisible, but eventually it becomes undeniable. Focusing on small improvements also helps you stay resilient during difficult times. Life will not always go according to plan. There will be setbacks, failures, and moments when progress feels slow or non-existent. But when your mindset is centered on small, daily growth, you are less likely to give up. Even on your worst days, you can still find a way to improve by just a little. That ability to keep moving forward, no matter how small the step, is what separates those who succeed from those who quit. It keeps you grounded, focused, and committed to the process rather than discouraged by temporary obstacles. Finally, small improvements shift your identity. Over time, you stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to change and start seeing yourself as someone who is growing. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your actions. When you consistently take small steps toward improvement, you reinforce the belief that you are disciplined, focused, and capable. That belief influences every decision you make. You no longer rely on external motivation or validation because your actions are aligned with who you believe you are becoming. And once that shift happens, growth is no longer something you chase. It becomes part of who you are. Consistency over motivation is one of the most powerful principles you can adopt if you truly want to grow. Motivation is often seen as the driving force behind success, but in reality, it is unreliable and temporary. Some days you wake up feeling energized, inspired, and ready to conquer your goals. Other days you feel tired, distracted, and unmotivated. If your progress depends on how you feel, then your results will always be inconsistent. That's why consistency matters more. It keeps you moving forward regardless of your emotions, your mood, or your circumstances. Motivation is emotional. Consistency is intentional. Motivation comes and goes based on external factors, what you watch, what you hear, how your day is going. But consistency is a decision you make ahead of time. It's a commitment to show up even when you don't feel like it. It's choosing discipline over comfort, action over excuses. When you rely on consistency, you remove the need to negotiate with yourself every day. You don't ask, do I feel like doing this? You simply do it because it's part of who you are and what you've committed to becoming. When you practice consistency, you build a rhythm that makes progress easier over time. At first, it feels difficult because you are pushing against old habits and resistance. But the more you repeat an action, the more natural it becomes. What once required effort eventually becomes automatic. This is how habits are formed, not through bursts of motivation, but through repeated, consistent behavior. And once a habit is formed, it requires less energy to maintain, allowing you to focus on improving rather than just getting started. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Every time you say you're going to do something and actually follow through, you strengthen your self-discipline and integrity. On the other hand, when you constantly rely on motivation and only act when you feel inspired, you begin to break that trust. You start to doubt your own ability to stay committed. But when you show up consistently, even in small ways, you prove to yourself that you are dependable. That self-trust becomes a powerful foundation for long-term growth and success. Another important aspect of consistency is that it smooths out the highs and lows of the journey. When you rely on motivation, you tend to have extreme ups and downs, periods of intense effort followed by complete inactivity. This cycle not only slows your progress, but also drains your energy. Consistency, on the other hand, creates stability. It allows you to maintain steady progress without burning out. You don't need to go all out every day. You just need to show up and do the work. Over time, that steady effort outperforms any short burst of motivation. Finally, consistency transforms your mindset from short-term thinking to long-term vision. Motivation often focuses on immediate results and quick wins, but consistency is rooted in patience and persistence. It teaches you to value the process, to trust that your efforts will pay off, even if you don't see results right away. You begin to understand that success is not about what you do occasionally, but what you do repeatedly. And when you commit to consistency, you give yourself the greatest advantage possible, the ability to keep going no matter what. Focusing on your own journey is one of the most important shifts you can make if you truly want to grow. In a world filled with constant comparison, it's easy to get distracted by what others are doing, achieving, or becoming. You scroll through social media, you look at people around you, and suddenly your progress doesn't feel like enough. But the truth is, comparison is one of the fastest ways to lose focus and slow down your own growth. The moment you start measuring your journey against someone else's, you take your attention away from what actually matters, your own development. Everyone is on a different path with different starting points, challenges, and opportunities. What works for someone else may not work for you, and that's okay. Your journey is not meant to look like anyone else's. When you understand this, you begin to appreciate your own pace instead of resenting it. Growth is not a race, and there is no universal timeline for success. Some people find their direction early, while others take longer to discover their strengths. What matters is not how fast you move compared to others, but whether you are moving forward at all. When you focus on your own journey, you gain clarity. Instead of being pulled in multiple directions by what others are doing, you can concentrate on what truly aligns with your goals and values. This clarity allows you to make better decisions, use your time more effectively, and avoid unnecessary distractions. You stop chasing trends and start building something meaningful for yourself. Your energy becomes more focused, and that focus translates into progress. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most for your growth. Another benefit of staying in your own lane is that it protects your mindset. Comparison often leads to self-doubt, insecurity, and frustration. You begin to question your abilities, your progress, and even your potential. But when you focus on yourself, you shift your attention from what you lack to what you can improve. You start to measure your success based on your own progress, not someone else's achievements. This creates a healthier, more positive mindset that supports long-term growth rather than holding you back. Focusing on your own journey also allows you to celebrate your progress, no matter how small it may seem. When you're constantly comparing, your wins feel insignificant because someone else always appears to be doing better. But when you measure your growth against your past self, every step forward becomes meaningful. You begin to recognize how far you've come, and that recognition fuels your motivation to keep going. Progress becomes personal, and that makes it more powerful and sustainable. Ultimately, staying focused on your own path helps you build authenticity. You are not trying to copy someone else's success or fit into someone else's definition of achievement. Instead, you are creating your own version of success based on your values, your goals, and your vision. That authenticity gives your journey purpose and direction. It allows you to grow in a way that feels true to who you are, rather than chasing something that was never meant for you in the first place. Embracing discomfort is essential if you want to experience real growth. Most people naturally gravitate toward what feels easy, familiar, and safe. Comfort gives a sense of security, but it also creates limitations. When you stay within your comfort zone, you repeat the same patterns, make the same choices, and ultimately get the same results. Growth, however, lives outside of that space. It begins the moment you choose to step into situations that challenge you, stretch you, and sometimes even scare you. Discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a signal that you are evolving. The reason discomfort feels so difficult is because it forces you to confront uncertainty. When you try something new or push yourself beyond your current limits, there are no guarantees. You might fail, you might struggle, and you might feel out of place. But that uncertainty is where learning happens. It forces you to adapt, to think differently, and to develop new skills. Every time you face discomfort, instead of avoiding it, you expand your capacity. What once felt impossible gradually becomes manageable, and eventually it becomes part of your new normal. Avoiding discomfort may feel good in the moment, but it comes with a long-term cost. When you choose comfort over growth, you delay your potential. You stay in situations that no longer challenge you, and over time, that can lead to stagnation. The fear of discomfort keeps you from taking risks, trying new opportunities, and discovering what you are truly capable of. But when you learn to embrace discomfort, you break that cycle. You stop seeing challenges as obstacles and start seeing them as opportunities to grow stronger and more capable. Another important aspect of embracing discomfort is building mental toughness. Life will not always be easy, and there will be moments that test your patience, resilience, and determination. By regularly putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, you train your mind to handle pressure and uncertainty more effectively. You become less reactive to fear and more focused on solutions. This mental strength becomes a powerful asset, allowing you to stay composed and confident even when faced with difficult circumstances. Discomfort also plays a key role in building confidence. It may seem counterintuitive, but confidence does not come from doing things you are already good at. It comes from overcoming challenges you once thought you couldn't handle. Every time you push through discomfort, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you believed. That proof builds a deeper, more lasting form of confidence, one that is rooted in experience, not just belief. Over time, you begin to trust yourself more, knowing that you can handle whatever comes your way. Ultimately, embracing discomfort transforms the way you approach life. Instead of avoiding challenges, you begin to seek them out because you understand their value. You become more willing to take risks, to learn, and to grow. Discomfort stops being something you fear and becomes something you use as a tool for progress. And in that shift, you unlock a level of growth that would never be possible if you had chosen to stay comfortable. Patience is power, even though it is often misunderstood and underestimated in a world that demands instant results. We live in a time where everything is fast communication, fast success stories, fast expectations. Because of this, many people begin to believe that progress should happen quickly. And when it doesn't, they feel discouraged. But real growth does not operate on urgency, it operates on consistency over time. Patience is not about waiting passively. It is about continuing to work, to improve, and to believe even when the results are not immediately visible. One of the biggest challenges people face is trusting the process. When you put in effort day after day and don't see instant outcomes, it's easy to question whether what you're doing is even working. Doubt starts to creep in, and that doubt can lead to frustration or even quitting. But patience allows you to stay grounded during these moments. It reminds you that progress is often happening beneath the surface, even if you can't see it yet. Just like a seed takes time to grow, before it breaks through the ground, your efforts need time to develop into visible results. Patience also helps you develop resilience. When things take longer than expected, you are forced to confront your limits, your emotions, your discipline, and your mindset. Without patience, these challenges can feel overwhelming. But when you embrace patience, you begin to understand that setbacks and delays are part of the journey, not signs of failure. You become more willing to endure difficulties, knowing that they are temporary and that your continued effort will eventually lead to progress. Another important aspect of patience is that it allows for deeper, more meaningful growth. Quick results often come without a strong foundation, which makes them difficult to sustain. But when you take your time, when you commit to gradual improvement, you build skills, habits, and understanding that last. You are not just chasing outcomes, you are developing the ability to maintain and expand those outcomes over time. This kind of growth is more stable, more reliable, and ultimately more rewarding. Patience also protects you from making impulsive decisions. When you are overly focused on immediate results, you may be tempted to take shortcuts or abandon your path for something that seems faster or easier. These decisions often lead to inconsistency and regret. But when you are patient, you are more likely to stay committed to your long-term vision. You understand that meaningful success cannot be rushed, and you are willing to stay the course even when it requires time and effort. In the end, patience strengthens your belief in yourself and your journey. It teaches you to value progress over perfection and effort over immediate reward. It shifts your focus from how fast to how well. And as you continue to show up to work and to trust the process, you begin to realize that patience is not slowing you down. It is building you up step by step into the person capable of achieving lasting success. The compound effect of effort is one of the most powerful forces behind long-term success, yet it is often overlooked because its impact is not immediate. When you put in small amounts of effort each day, it can feel like nothing significant is happening. The progress seems slow, almost invisible, and it's easy to underestimate its value. But what makes consistent effort so powerful is not what it does in a single day. It's what it does over time. When repeated daily, even the smallest actions begin to build on each other, creating results far greater than the sum of their parts. At the beginning of any journey, the results of your effort may appear minimal. You might study for hours and still feel like you haven't mastered the subject. You might train consistently and see only slight physical changes. You might work on a skill and feel like you're improving at a slow pace. This is where many people lose patience and give up. They expect immediate rewards, and when those rewards don't come, they assume their efforts are not working. But the truth is, the compound effect is always working. It's just working quietly in the background. What separates those who succeed from those who don't is their ability to stay consistent long enough for the compound effect to reveal itself. When you continue putting in effort, day after day, your progress starts to accelerate. The knowledge you gain begins to connect, your skills become sharper, and your confidence grows. What once felt difficult becomes easier, and what once took a long time begins to happen more quickly. This is the moment when the results of your past efforts start to multiply, and the growth becomes more visible and more rewarding. The compound effect also applies to your habits, both positive and negative. Just as small positive actions can lead to significant growth, small negative habits can lead to long-term setbacks. Skipping one day of effort may not seem like a big deal, but repeated over time, it can slow your progress and weaken your discipline. On the other hand, choosing to stay consistent, even in small ways, strengthens your habits and reinforces your commitment. Every action you take is like a vote for the person you are becoming, and over time, those votes shape your identity. Another important aspect of the compound effect is that it creates momentum. When you consistently put in effort, you build a rhythm that makes it easier to keep going. Each step forward fuels the next one, and over time, you find yourself moving with greater speed and confidence. This momentum reduces the resistance you once felt at the beginning. You no longer have to push yourself as hard to get started because taking action has become part of your routine. And once momentum is established, it becomes one of your greatest advantages. Understanding the compound effect changes the way you view progress. Instead of looking for quick results, you begin to value consistency and persistence. You learn to trust that your efforts are adding up, even when you can't see immediate outcomes. This mindset keeps you committed during the early stages when progress feels slow and uncertain. And as time goes on, you begin to see the results of your dedication, not as a sudden breakthrough, but as the natural outcome of all the small, consistent efforts you have made along the way. The compound effect of effort is one of the most powerful forces behind long-term success, yet it is often overlooked because its impact is not immediate. When you put in small amounts of effort each day, it can feel like nothing significant is happening. The progress seems slow, almost invisible, and it's easy to underestimate its value. But what makes consistent effort so powerful is not what it does in a single day, it's what it does over time. When repeated daily, even the smallest actions begin to build on each other, creating results far greater than the sum of their parts. At the beginning of any journey, the results of your effort may appear minimal. You might study for hours and still feel like you haven't mastered the subject. You might train consistently and see only slight physical changes. You might work on a skill and feel like you're improving at a slow pace. This is where many people lose patience and give up. They expect immediate rewards, and when those rewards don't come, they assume their efforts are not working. But the truth is, the compound effect is always working. It's just working quietly in the background. What separates those who succeed from those who don't is their ability to stay consistent long enough for the compound effect to reveal itself. When you continue putting in effort day after day, your progress starts to accelerate. The knowledge you gain begins to connect. Your skills become sharper and your confidence grows. What once felt difficult becomes easier, and what once took a long time begins to happen more quickly. This is the moment when the results of your past efforts start to multiply, and the growth becomes more visible and more rewarding. The compound effect also applies to your habits, both positive and negative. Just as small positive actions can lead to significant growth, small negative habits can lead to long-term setbacks. Skipping one day of effort may not seem like a big deal, but repeated over time, it can slow your progress and weaken your discipline. On the other hand, choosing to stay consistent, even in small ways, strengthens your habits and reinforces your commitment. Every action you take is like a vote for the person you are becoming, and over time, those votes shape your identity. Another important aspect of the compound effect is that it creates momentum. When you consistently put in effort, you build a rhythm that makes it easier to keep going. Each step forward fuels the next one, and over time, you find yourself moving with greater speed and confidence. This momentum reduces the resistance you once felt at the beginning. You no longer have to push yourself as hard to get started because taking action has become part of your routine. And once momentum is established, it becomes one of your greatest advantages. Understanding the compound effect changes the way you view progress. Instead of looking for quick results, you begin to value consistency and persistence. You learn to trust that your efforts are adding up, even when you can't see immediate outcomes. This mindset keeps you committed during the early stages, when progress feels slow and uncertain. And as time goes on, you begin to see the results of your dedication, not as a sudden breakthrough, but as the natural outcome of all the small, consistent efforts you have made along the way. So understand this: your life is not shaped by what you do once in a while, but by what you do every single day. The small choices, the quiet efforts, the moments when no one is watching, those are the moments that define you. You don't need to be extraordinary overnight. You just need to be committed enough to improve, disciplined enough to stay consistent, and patient enough to trust the process. There will be days when it feels slow, days when it feels like nothing is changing. But don't let that fool you. Growth is happening even when you can't see it. Every step forward, no matter how small, is building something greater within you. And one day, you will look back and realize that those 1% improvements didn't just change your habits, they changed your entire life. So stay focused, stay consistent, embrace the discomfort, trust the timing, and most importantly, keep showing up for yourself, because the person you are becoming is worth every bit of effort.